Welcome to Sunday School. Today we're going to start, well, not start, we'll finish up too. We're going to talk about mantras. Now, some of you, perhaps many of you, know that I have sort of a pet mantra using the repetition of the name Ganesha or Ganesh and Ganesha. And I do it to the tune of Pop Goes the Weasel because, well, for I think obvious reasons. It's easy to memorize, and 2.5 rounds of a Pop Goes the Weasel gives us the classic 108 rosary bead kind of, mala series of repetitions. And I have posted right on my Facebook page here this morning. Let me confirm here that I've got my sound up because sometimes I don't. Hang on. Oh, it looks like my sound is okay. All right. I posted this morning two pages. They're screenshots, and they should be arranged in such a way as if you print them front and back kind of thing, they fold into a booklet, a 4-page booklet with a cover and everything else of Constance's Gnostic Rosary, which contains a total of 65 beads. And it's patterned sort of not so much as a classic mantra, although there are four sets of 11 or 5 sets of 11 that we repeat. Do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. But it has other things, things from the Mass and the anthem and things from the Book of the Law on the other landmark beads and stuff. So I printed that for your own edification. If you wanted to print it out as a booklet, you'd probably have to rearrange a couple things and turn things upside down. But be that as it may, do you have a mantra? I guess is my question. And if you don't, have you ever considered it as a meditative tool? It is literally mind-bogglingly simple. It is so simple that it's hard at first. Now I'm going to read what Crowley has to say about mantras in Book 4, Part 1, I think, Mysticism, or is it Part 2? Yeah, Chapter 2. In his chapter called Pranayama and its parallel in speech, Mantra Yoga. Now I'm reading from what I've got it on Kindle here. If you've got the big blue Master Book 4, it may be a more accurate rendering, because who knows when you get things on Kindle whether it's any good or not. But I'd like to share it with you. And during the years that Constance and I practiced homemade monastery, each of us in the morning would we were completely silent until after breakfast. And in that silence, Constance went upstairs to the loft and did her meditations, and I went out to the garden area, and I did my banishings and invocation and actually using that mantra, my Ganesha mantra, to both banish and invoke. And then I would get out a rosary. I've had a beautiful 108 bead rosary. And I would do one of several of my favorite mantras. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha for Ganesha, but I'd also use do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law, or love is the law, love under will. I even used Om Peda Balasti, Om Peda Balasti, Om Peda Balasti. And because once you get into the swing of it, the same thing happens. It crowds out all other thoughts. In the same way that, in a sense, pranayama does to the breath, mantra yoga is a form of pranayama. But let me read what Crowley has to say, because this is Sunday school, and we'll see what he has to say. The connection between breath and mind will be fully discussed in speaking of the magic sword. Okay, sword is ruach, the mind, things like that. So that makes sense. But it may be useful to premise a few details of a practical character. You may consult various Hindu manuals and the writing of Kwang-tse for various notable theories as to method and result. Now remember, when Crowley was writing this in the early 1900s, there wasn't bookstores filled with whole walls of yoga books and mysticism books and mantra books and pranayama books. Okay, it was few and far between, and pretty damn poor translations at that. So when reading about or reading Crowley, you have to say to yourself, you have to keep in mind what Crowley had to work with, and it was not very much stuff. He got personal instruction from people like in Ceylon and things like that. But don't think that the literature that Crowley suggests that you read is by any means all there is, or even the best of what is. So that's my digression. But in this skeptical system, he's talking about magic and Thelema, but in this skeptical system, one had better content oneself with statements which are not worth the trouble in doubt, are not worth the trouble of doubting, because there's all sorts of, fundamentalist Hindu claptrap in much of the literature that he was reading, kind of superstitious stuff. The ultimate idea of meditation being to still the mind, it may be considered a useful preliminary to still consciousness of all the functions of the body. So that's why you do asana. This has been dealt with in the chapter of asana. One may, however, mention that some yogis carry it to the point of trying to stop the beating of the heart. Good luck with that. Whether this be desirable or no, it would be useless to the beginner, so he will endeavor to make the breathing very slow and very regular. The rules are set forth in of this practice are given in Liber 206. The best way to time the breathing, once a little skill has been required, with a watch to bear witness. Okay, so you've seen that drawing of my eye's view of my thumb on my nose and my getting ready to close off a nostril and do another. And I have a watch. I have a watch in this hand, and I'm watching the seconds go by. Okay. Uh, the mantra acts on thoughts very much as pranayama does upon breath. The thought is bound down to a recurring cycle. Any intruding thoughts are thrown off by the mantra, just as pieces of putty would be thrown from the flywheel, and the swifter the wheel, the more difficult would it be for anything to stick. This is the proper way to practice mantra, or this is Crowley's opinion on the best way to practice mantra when he wrote this. Utter it as loudly and as slowly as possible 10 times. Then not quite so loudly and a very little faster 10 times more. Continue this process until there is nothing but a rapid movement of the lips. This movement should be continued with increased velocity and diminishing intensity until the mental muttering completely absorbs the physical. The student is, by this time, absolutely still, with the mantra racing in his brain. He should, however, continue to speed it up until he reaches his limit, at which he should continue for as long as possible, and then cease the practice by reversing the process above described. So you get it down to Ganesha, 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 Ganesha. Any sentence may be used as a mantra. Now, here I'm going to pause. Did you hear that? Any sentence can be used as a mantra. Eventually, any meaning attached to that sentence will sort of dissolve away. Okay, so you could say something that just totally stupid and eventually get to the same effect. Things like, well, I'll talk about that in a second. And possibly the Hindus are correct in thinking there is a particular sentence best suited to any particular man. Some men might find, and you know, he's talking like he's meaning everybody, okay? Some men might find the liquid mantras of the Quran slide too easily so that it'd be possible to continue another train of thought. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah. And I can think about breakfast around that. It's so beautiful and lyrical, okay? At least that's the point Crowley's trying to make. One is supposed, while saying the mantra, to meditate upon its meaning. This suggests that the student might construct for himself a mantra which should represent the universe in sound, as a panticle should do in form. Occasionally, a mantra may be given, in other words, heard in some unexplained manner during meditation. One man, for example, used the words, quote, and strive to see in everything the will of God. That's pretty good, okay. To another, while engaged in killing thoughts, came the words, quote, and push it down, and push it down, and push it down, and push it down. Not bad. Apparently referring to the action of the inhibitory centers which he was using. By keeping on with this, he thus got his result. The ideal mantra should be rhythmical. One may even say musical. but there should be sufficient emphasis on some syllable to assist the faculty of attention. The best mantras are of medium length, so far as the beginner is concerned. If the mantra is too long, one is apt to forget it, unless one practices very hard for a great length of time. On the other hand, mantras of single syllables, such as Aum, are rather jerky. The rhythmical idea is lost. However, in saying a mantra containing the word Aum, one sometimes forgets the other words and remains concentrated, repeating the Aum at intervals. But this is the result of practice already begun, not the beginning of practice. Okay, here are a couple of useful mantras. Now, Crowley is thinking he's writing all of this as an introductory text. This is for the grocery girl and the banker and the pugilist, okay? So he's just throwing out a few that he knows and the few that are out there. Aum is the first one. And I think he makes a... then the second one is Aum Tat Sat Aum. And he said this mantra is very spondaic. And there's the famous one, Aum Mani Padme Hum. And he says two trochees between two kesuras. Those are pauses, and they're sort of different kind of pauses. We got Om Mani Padme Hum, so we got those 4 words. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure what that actually means. I'm sure all of you do, okay? So Aum Mani Padme Hum, Aum Mani Padme Hum, could be something like that. Then there's a fourth one, Aum Shiva Ya Vashi, Aum Shiva Ya Yash Vashi, Yam Shiva Ya Vashi, Yam. 3 torches. Note that she means rest, and the absolute or male aspect of the deity, Va, is energy manifested, or the female side of deity. I love Crowley. This mantra therefore expresses the whole course of the universe from zero back to zero. Okay. So does Aum. So does actually Aum. I'm going to digress for a second. Crowley expanded the word Aum. Okay, now Aum is an entire cycle of creation. Creation like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, creator, sustainer, destroyer. It brings together a whole cycle. It starts with Aum. And see, the Aum starts with the beginning, Aum, and then the Oo focuses it for, it's like birth, life, ooh, and then death, or the end of a cycle. Crowley added a GM sound, bringing different elements of speech into it. Is it the guttural? Okay. And then it goes, one of the first dates Constance and I went on, because I never had any money when I was in high school. I took her to the the dam north of town. There's a dam and a powerhouse with large, huge generators. I think that 3 hydroelectric generators. And it was built in the late 1930s or the mid 1930s, I guess. And so the generator room looked like a temple. Okay, it had glossy, like marble floors. It wasn't marble, but they were polished floors, and there was tasteful, uh, Spartan but Art Deco. It was it was gorgeous, and we could go there all alone, and it was on all night, of course, and it was open all night because, and we'd go there and stand sort of in a balcony gallery around it, and we'd hear those huge generators hum, and they hummed. It wasn't just hum. It was and together like locusts. You know, when locusts or cicadas sing, it's not just a it's not just a hiss. It's a hiss that moves, and the generators sound. And I've done this before. I'm going to do it again. Don't worry. Uh, the generators went. No. And then the lights went out all over. No. He went, just like that. Okay. Oh, here's a few other mantras that Crowley suggests. Allah. Now, Allah is really a cool name of deity. Okay, because Al means God, and La means not. So God not, God dot, God, Allah. The syllables of this are accented equally, and with certain pause between them, are usually combined by fakirs with a rhythmic motion of the body to and fro. Allah, 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 Allah. Then there's another one. Allah, oh, excuse me. Huwa, Allahu, Allazi, La ilallah huwa. And there's some longer ones. Okay, the famous Gayatri, Aum Tat Savitur Varenyam. Okay, I'm not going to do it all for you. But here's the one that really kind of has it all. Kul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu as-samad, lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. Kul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu as-samad, lam yalid walam yulad, walam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad. That's cool. And this mantra is the holiest of all, or can be. It's from the Stele of Revealing. Akadua tafur bihu biha chafu dudunera fanutaru akadua. There's even musical notes attached to it. Such are enough for a selection. And then he gives the meanings to the various one. The last one, Kul Huwa Allahu Ahad, said, say, He is God alone, God eternal. He begets not and is not begotten. That's that's so cool. Okay, and uh, the Thelemic one, Akadua tofur biu bi'at shufu dunu nerafa nutaru. Uh, he says, okay, unity uttermost showed, I adore the might of thy breath, supreme and terrible God, who makest the gods and death to tremble before thee. I adore thee. So the chapter goes on, but that's where we're going to leave it today. Do you have a mantra? At why 108 for mantra beads and things like that, rosary beads. 108. That's why I chose uh, Pop Goes the Weasel, because all you have to do is do 4.5 rounds of Pop Goes the Weasel to get 108. 108 has, Google it, okay? Traditionally, it has tons and tons of shit going for it. Uh, Associated with the heart chakra, uh, sun, earth, moon, got all sorts of traditional Hindu things going for it. It's not Kabbalistically speaking. I'm sure there's lots of stuff, but 108 is chosen not so much from the Western Hermetic Kabbalistic way of looking at things, but from other traditional Asian uh, uh, systems. So that's it. That's Sunday school. Sunday school's dismissed. Have a good rest of your weekend, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Until then, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.